So I'm going to check from basically these two right here, and I'm expecting 230. Okay. Okay, 232. All right, we got it.
Hey guys, it's Jason from the Dental Cone Repair channel. Today I have a little friend here, the cone beam, and it's getting a low voltage error. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and increase the voltage. The issue is that the voltage coming out of the wall is too low. Based on the sticker of the unit, it should be about 220 to 240, and right now it's 208. This particular building has three-phase power, which for reasons that I don't think I'll kind of get into here, the voltage is at 208. This is typically in larger buildings where you need to have multiple power legs. It's not quite the same as residential. I'm not an electrician, but I know enough to know that big buildings typically have 208. You need something that's called a buck boost transformer. The buck boost transformer is going to take the voltage and it's going to raise it or lower it. Now, this is the plug where it gets plugged into the wall, and we'll unplug it, and then I'll just show you what we're looking at here. Now, if we go from the two horizontal spades to one another, we're gonna go ahead and select basically volts. And we're gonna go in there, and we're gonna see here that we're sitting right at 210 volts, okay? So we're at 210, and then right over here, you're gonna see that there's a sticker. And the sticker is going to say right in here somewhere, 220 to 240. So, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and make that voltage higher. Now, the way that we're going to do this is by installing this heavy thing called a buck boost transformer. But this is kind of what they look like. They're real heavy because they're a transformer. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this form right here. The instructions are very important. And on the box here, I'm going to see a part number, okay? The part number is this T181051. Okay, I highlighted it for you. There it is. Now, if you look here on your form, there's going to be, basically this is made for a bunch of stuff, okay? And this over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by looking in here until we get to this. There's going to be a group 1, okay, group 1, and I'll maybe scan these in a way where they're a little bit easier to work with. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and take that number, which is going to be the T181051. So I'm going to find that on here, and I think it's going to be T181051, which is going to be like right in here. I'll highlight it. All right, so T181051, which is right there. Okay, that's still our accurate number. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go from 208 to 230. That's still accurate. And then we're gonna follow it all the way down still. And I actually draw on it because then it's gonna give us actually H, okay? Now what H is actually the diagram of the wiring inside. The way that we're going to hook up the wiring so that we can get 208 volts and turn it into 230. And this is the thing that's bewildering because, all right, let's go ahead and like pull this thing out here. All right, so here we go. So this is the transformer, right? So we're going to pull the one screw out of the bottom because there's a cover here. It's the bottom cover is the one we're pulling out. And this is where it gets a little squirrely. You need, I think, like some zip ties to kind of, you know, hold things together a little bit or to sort some of this out. So what's going to happen is you're going to take two screws out and this thing is going to come apart just like that. Okay, this comes out. They have like a little cheat sheet in here. Now what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and open this up, and we have a plate. This part right here goes into this part right here. So that can hang right there, and then this one right here gets screwed in here to those two little guys, right? See that, how they line up? And then that goes right there, and then you can actually screw the whole thing into the wall. Now for planning, what we'll probably do is we'll get this all in there together, we'll hang it on a couple wall anchors that I probably have, and then we'll screw in here as well. So what you'll need is to like mount it to the drywall. The other thing you could do, which might actually be, we'll go ahead and like set it on the ground, and which, because I don't know, we'll see. If there's studs in the wall, I'll mount it. Now, what we're gonna be working with here are these knockouts, okay? Now the knockouts are gonna give us a form of strain relief for the wires coming in. And you actually have like sides. We're just gonna go in the bottom. One's gonna be in, one's gonna be out. All right, so what'll happen is you're gonna pull out a whole grip of wires, okay? There's a whole bunch of them. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wires, and you got 2 things coming in and out. But then you look close, if you look closer, they're all marked twice, like H4, H3, H2, and you know, H1. Just obviously they're all the H's. Well, if you look here, then this drawing right here has all the numbers on it too. So you basically have H4, H1, X4, X1. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say right up here, it says input. So that's our low side. So if you have basically right here, you've got your input is gonna be connected to H1 and X4. And so that means that's your wall. So the input is 208. And then the output is going to be 230. Okay, and that's, the pin is a little dead, but anyhow. So what we're going to do is we're going to hook up that input line to 2 others. So there's going to be 3 wires connected. Then on this side, there's going to be the other input, but that's only going to be connected to 1 wire. So right here you have an input, an output, and H4. Then you're going to have H2 and H3, H1 and X4, X3, X2, and then X1 and output. So in order to do this, I do use, for the 2 wire connections, if they'll fit it, I use Wago connections. And what I do is I'm going to go ahead and do the ones that are easy first. These are Wago connections. I've got 2s, and then I've got 2s and I've got 3s. And what's nice about these is they are rated at 200 or 20 amps in 300 volts. And then these are rated at 32 amps and 450 volts. You just have to make sure you check the wiring diameter, which I don't think for the little ones is really an issue. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take the 2 Wagos and then we're gonna just pick one. And right now H2 and H3 say they need to go together. So let's start there. So I'm gonna find H3 right here. Okay, that's H3. Okay, and then I'm gonna find, there's H1, there's H2. All right, so we're gonna have H2 and H3, and then I just double check the heck out of this as I'm going. All right, so we're gonna take these wires and I'm gonna just twist them. And so we got H2 and H3 go together. Okay, and then we're gonna go ahead and just stick it in here. Okay, and we're gonna stick it in here and push those down. And then I'm gonna do a tug check using some of my strength. And H2 and H3 are together, okay? Now we're gonna do X3 and X2, which are gonna go together. I just want you to see how I am literally just following what this is telling me to do. Now this looks confusing, but again, we're like ignoring everything but that. So again, X3 and then X2. Okay. And this is literally, you just focus and don't. You just focus and then double check. Because okay, and I'll show you right here. So X2, that's what it looks like, X2 and X3, okay? Okay, so those are good. So now we have the ones that are done over here, and then we have these other wires. Now, what we're gonna find is that on this drawing, we've connected those center ones. Now X1 is going to be one of our outputs. Okay, X1 is going to be one of our outputs. So we will go ahead and find X1. Okay. And I'm just going to put this on here. And then what I'm going to do is leave that one open. And on the end of it, I'm going to take my Sharpie here. And I'm just going to go ahead and put, I'm just going to put out. Out. All right, I want you to see this. X1 is our output, okay? So that is going to be one of our outs. So I wrote out on it, okay? Okay, so our second out is going to literally have one of the inputs and one of the outputs connected to it, okay? So that's going to be a 3, okay? Now some of these wires do get pretty big. Now these wires are not prohibitive for this. So we're going to take H4, and I'm going to literally just go ahead and put it right here. Okay, I'm going to connect it to the 3. And then I'm going to go ahead and write here. I'm going to write in, and I'm going to write out. Okay, just like that, okay? So if you look, it's going to say in, out, okay? And then this is going to also say H4, okay? So H4, if you look right here, H4 has an in and an out going to it, okay? So now we should have 2 wires left. Now the 2 wires left, based on this, I'm expecting, okay, because this is a really good thing to do, is like look at your drawing and say, all right, now I'm expecting that I'm gonna have H1 and X4, and then that's gonna be another triple, okay? Now the reason you want to do that, H1 and X4, is because as you're working on equipment, if you can expect what to see, and you say, all right, I'm going to see H1 and X4, if you see anything else other than that, then that checks something you messed up before, which this is something you do not want to hook up backwards. Okay, at the minimum, you're going to just waste time. So right now I'm looking and I'm holding H1 and X4 in my hand, which are right here. So H1. We're just gonna this is a really important part of this, is literally spending time looking at this. Okay, H1 and X4. Okay, and then we're gonna take another triple here, and okay, and then we're going to go ahead and go right here, and then we're going to leave the one in the middle open just because that's how I like it, and then we're going to go ahead and write H1X4, and then we're going to write in. Okay, so now what we've got is we basically have 3 Wagos that are flipped up, okay, 3 of them, but we got 4 wires coming in. All right, now, why do we have 3 connections but 4 wires? Yep, because one of them has 2, like the input and an output going to it, okay? So essentially, we've got, this one is the input and output going to it. This one is the input going to it. And then this one is gonna be the output going to it, okay? So see that, I have 2 ins, 2 outs, and then everything else is connected. So we're just going to cut a little bit of tape. I'm just going to tape those down and then pull that around. So now, what we're left with is we're left with the 3 Wagos that don't have tape on them. We know that something needs to happen with those. And then we also have the 2 bottom knockouts. So now, I brought kind of a giant cord here to go ahead and hook into the wall, because that's going to, this is going to be, what is this going to be? This one's going to be our in, right? And then this other one's going to be our out. Okay, guys, here we are. So this is the best that I had that had the acceptable internal diameter for this power cord. Cut this in half. And there we go. So I just cut that. That's now good. I didn't cut the inside wires. So yeah, before you cut a piece of wire, make sure that the thing's unplugged. You know, that's a really important safety step. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna just go ahead and strip these back. And there's a ground lug in here, okay? And so we'll have to kind of maybe take another trip out to the truck there. But for right now, we'll just go ahead and get this ready. So this is gonna be our in, okay? And then we'll go ahead and do our out here. And on this one, I'll just cut this. And I just kind of like drag them a little bit, the blades, until I can kind of like see that color pop. And once the color pops out, then I know that that side of it's good. I'm gonna cut this stuff off. Now I do think that we'll test it before we hook the machine up to it. And then what I'm expecting is that where that 208 or 210 was, that we should see about 230 or 232, something like that. So here we go. So this side's ready. And now, the way we're gonna get this installed here is we have these things called knockouts. Now, again, there are two different sizes of knockouts. Now, sometimes you just have the little ones. Now the issue with these is this hole won't let this come through, okay? It's too small, okay? But this one, all right, this one will, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and use the bigger one, and I'm just gonna hit this in here, and okay, till it starts to turn like so. And I'll do the same thing over here. Okay, I'm doing both sides. And then from there, we'll grab it with our, I'm sure there's a smoother way to do this. Okay, so now what we got basically two holes, and then we're just going to take this guy and put it in there. And we'll put the screws so that they interface from the front here. And then we'll put this on, and then we'll just spin that. All right, and then I'm just going to turn this in a way where maybe I'll back that off and then get that a little bit more. There's a way that you can use the whole thing is like a twisty. So I'm going to get it facing the right way. And the tightening is that way. Okay, so that's in there. Okay, like that. And then we'll take the second one. All right, cool. Then what's going to happen is these guys will spin these out. And again, one thing we said was that this one here will be the in. So we will go ahead and put this through to this side, which will be closest to the and these. So what we'll try to do is create enough of a whip here so that we can kind of play with these. So now what we're going to do is I've got those where I want them right here, and then I don't have to be super long, just enough to work with. And then I guess what we'll do is we'll signify the white as maybe as we should here. Okay. And we'll just do an extra good job here. Okay. So we'll put that on there. So that signifies that's hot. We need to ground to the chassis and then to the incoming and to the outgoing. So that, because this is the ground plug, and then these are your two, those are your two 230 right there. So now we're going to re-reference this again. Okay, in is going to be going to the triple with H4, and it's going to say in. So here's a triple. Okay, that one is there. Okay, so that one is good. I'm going to tug check him, he's good. And then take that. Let's see what could take so long on this, and I think it's just paying attention to detail. All right. So now this one here is going to go to one side of the triple, okay, that was, this one had one inlet, one outlet, or one in, one out. Okay, right, so this one is our H4. So I just hooked my ends to the H4 with one outlet, which is right here, that's this one, and then this other one here, it's hooked to H1 and X4, H1, X4, good to go, okay? So our ends are good. We'll go ahead and tape those off because I'm not expecting to have to come back here. Now if I do, then I'm going to be checking everything, but I'm not expecting to. So here we go. There's that. I am going to take another triple though, and I think I'm going to hook up this one for ground. And then I'm going to hook up this one for a ground. So I'm just going to go in. These little things from the store, these are awesome. These little whips, they make grounding stuff so easy. So it's just the Wago is going to create a unified electrical connection between those three things. So here's this. Now I'm going to take this one and put this through over here. Hopefully you guys can still see that. This is where it gets, I don't know, just where you have to kind of know what you're doing because the instructions probably don't have as much of this stuff in there. Ooh. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so let's see here. So this is our ground. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to take the ground and try to hook this thing up. Now it might be, I don't know. I guess we'll see what it is here. All right. Now I think it might be. Okay. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to use, I'm just going to try to slip it in there. All right, now I'm going to spin that. Okay, and then I'm going to take that and turn. Now you should probably use a real tool. I think my real tool is out there on the truck. And I don't think I can fit a crescent wrench in there. So I'm going to tighten the ground. So what we're going to do is what we started out with 208, and now we're looking for 230. All right, so we'll take these out of there. We're going to take our voltage and we're going to reset it, and we'll go ahead and do our light here. Let's go ahead and put these here where we got the 2 off. So we're going to put one there, and then we're going to put one there. These are our outs. All right, so now what we're looking for is when we plug this thing in, we're looking for the meter to read 230, something like that. That's what it was not reading before. Okay, so here we go. See how it works. All right, so there we go, 232 volts. Okay, and as a reminder, so there's 232 volts. And then we'll take these back out again. And then we'll put this back in here. All right, and then we're gonna go ahead and go right here, and then right here, okay. And see, we got 210, okay? So the transformer made it go from 210 to 232, okay? The first time I had to do this, I had to call my friend, James, and I had to get his help because I didn't understand, like, it was just looked like complete nonsense to me. And I'll tell you, just about every single time that I've done this, it's always been to increase the voltage from 208 to 230. And it's always been the same thing. All right, here you go. So now here's this. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take our, oh, here we go. We'll do our tape again. Okay. Look, there we go. Okay, put the tape on it just to signify. Okay, and then this is gonna be our out. Okay, I'll make sure that gets all the way up in there, like so. Okay, there we go. And that's all the way in. There we go. And then we'll take our green, put our green with the other greens here. Okay. Yeah, so demystifying the old buck boost transformer. Now the other thing here is the kVA. I think depending on what the equipment is, I think this plays more with the bigger stuff like compressors and vacuums. You end up with like some kind of a kVA rating of what it's recommended as. So it's got to kind of make sure that you're not, undersizing a buck boost transformer. All right, and then this one. Okay. I am not, it took me a while to learn how to do this, and all right, so there we go. So those are all there. I'm gonna just go ahead and take all those, and our ground's in, everything's in. I'm gonna just twist this all together in a way where hopefully nothing will come, apart. I'm gonna shove that in there like so, and then it all back together. And then we're going to take this little cover, put this guy back on, because now it's easier to do it this way than it is to, it's easier to do it here than it is to go back different. And then right here is that. Okay. Now this female plug right here is going to be our 230 volt plug. So we're gonna go ahead and just push this through, okay, like so. Well, I don't like that happened. It might not fit through there. I don't know. That's interesting. Okay, so we'll shove that down in there, and then we're just gonna go ahead and trim these back. Or if you miss a step, it's always possible to miss a step on these. Okay, so there's that. So now what we're gonna do is typically on these boxes, they're gonna give you, this one's on the inside. This is a neat little trick. If you look, they're gonna tell you, basically they're gonna say strip it back a full inch. Okay, strip it back a full inch. Where are we? There we are. 1 full inch right there, and then 3/8. So, all right, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna say full inch. Okay, so there we go. That's actually 1 inch right there. So let's go ahead and do it exactly by the book. Look at that. Measured. Okay. That's actually a pretty fun way to do it. Okay, and then I'm going to go into 3/8. So I'm going to go basically 1, 2, 3/8. So 3/8 is right there. I'm going to go 3/8, and then we're going to go ahead and straighten. This is actually how I learned in the military. They had us do this, and then if it wasn't good enough, they basically would insult you and then make you do it again. Tell me if I'm lying. Tell me if I'm lying. How many of you guys learned that way? I'm kind of wondering right now at this stage of my life, like how much of the way that I learned how to do things is really like the way people still learn how to do them. Starting to believe that there's definitely some changes afoot with how people learn. So I'm gonna put it in there by the book. Now that part has to be on first, naturally. So I shove that in. I'm gonna do the ground first and just tighten it until we're good. Okay, now we're gonna go to the second one. Okay, there we go. Gonna shove that in. Okay, so last one here. Okay. Yep. Beautiful. Okay. All right, and then I'm just gonna make sure I tighten all these down. And then again, I'm gonna do a tug test. A tug test is kind of just putting like maybe like a quarter to like half pressure. And there's alignment. It actually has an arrow on it right here. It's pretty cool. And as I push that down, I'm going to start these ones. Okay. 1, 2, and 3. Starting that down. Okay, and then we're going to tighten this down. And what this is going to do is make it so that if something dumb happens, like somebody trips on it, or there's kind of some sad thing happens. And then I'm just going to tighten these down until they're tight. And then I'm going to finish tightening these down. 1, 2, and then 3. So now what I'm expecting is that when we go and hook this thing up, I'm expecting that this side is going to go in, this side is going to have the correct voltage. And I'm going to double check the voltage on this before we hook it up. Now, in order to check these out, we're going to set this here. Oh, we're going to plug this back in, which is going to have, okay, we're going to have this plugged back in. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at a couple of readings. We're going to take a few readings. So I'm going to check from basically these two right here, and I'm expecting 230. Okay. Okay, 232. All right, we got it. Now I'm going to check from basically from one of them here, okay, one of them there to the ground, and I'm expecting 120. Oh shit. Okay, interesting. 141. That's really fun. Okay. Well, now I'm going to check from this one to the other one. And now that's 121. That's really fun. So, all right, guys. We're at a place now where we can go ahead and all we got to do is mount it. We've got some ways to do that. And then I guess what we can do is test it. So we're just going to go ahead and plug in right here, right there. And then we're going to plug in this guy right here. And okay, just like so. All right, that's nice. And then, okay, so those are there. And then we'll go ahead and power on the unit here, right here. Beautiful.
Okay. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and go just right there, too. All right. All right, so here we go. Oh, dude, this job is just so fun. All right, here we go. Not a problem though. Just gotta. Oh, such a fun. Right here. Okay, like so. All right, so what's happening is I'm gonna go ahead and secure it right here with one on that side, which should secure it. Good. Okay. So I'm gonna just make sure it looks visually straight. Okay, like so. That looks good. I'm just gonna go ahead and go right here then, and poke a hole where I want that to go. So now what's gonna happen is I'm gonna drill a hole up in here and in the drywall, and then that will go in. Okay. Okay. Okay, right here. Oh, those wall anchors. Those are about the only wall anchors that I really bother to use. Now, I'm gonna swing this right over here, and then right into there, and then tighten this. Okay. Maybe it's not straight. Okay, cool. All right, so that's good there. All right, guys. So there we are. Buck boost transformer installed. Pan's happy. We'll go ahead and get the doctor to do a test. Guys, thanks for tuning in and spending a little bit of time with me. You guys have a good one.